Okay, we are going to start with chapter 34, and we're going to read Dinah before we start reading chapter 34. As far as we know, Dinah was Jacob's only daughter. She lived among 10 older and, and 2 younger brothers. She grew up in a family rocked by struggle between 2 sisters married to the same man. Dinah's mother, Leah, knew that Jacob loved her sister and rival Rachel. We don't know how the bitterness and jealousy between these women affected the only girl child in the family. By the time Dinah was a teenager, her family was living in Shechem, a town north of Bethel, and Jerusalem in the Promised Land. Apparently, no one really paid much attention to Dinah until she went out for a walk in town one day. She was noticed and raped by Shechem, the son of the ruler of the city. Violated and shamed, Dinah found herself in the center of a family crisis. Shechem asked his father to arrange a marriage with Dinah, but in Jacob's and his son's eyes, Dinah had been damaged and their family had been insulted. Jacob failed to provide any fatherly leadership in the situation, and his sons took matters into their own hands. The results were treacherous and bloody. In all this, the victim was overlooked. Dinah was neither comforted nor consulted. Instead, she was treated with almost as much disrespect by her family as she was by Shechem. By handing her over to Shechem, they used Dinah as bait in a trap that led to the murder of all the men in the village. Dinah's brothers profited from the massacre of Shechem. Jacob was angry at his sons and their actions, but did nothing. Meanwhile, Dinah slipped back into oblivion. Her story reminds us of the tragedies that occur when family members are careless with each other. Someone ends up paying a high price. You probably know someone who can identify closely with Dinah. Perhaps you have experienced that same anonymity as a victim who was unnoticed or forgotten. Remember several glimmers of hope. Even when everyone else forgets, God doesn't. When no one seems to notice, God sees. When no one seems to care, God cares. When you feel all alone, you aren't. And one of the first lessons God will teach you as you depend on Him is that there are others who also care and are willing to help. Begin to speak to God today in prayer about your past. Dinah's strengths and accomplishments, Jacob's only daughter, lessons from her life. Thoughtless avengers often hurt the original victims a second time, and family members can be trampled in a rush or in the rush for family honor. Vital statistics: where Padam Aram, relatives, parents Jacob and Leah, 12 brothers, Aunt Rachel, grandparents were Isaac and Rebekah and Laban, and uncle was Esau. Key verse: sometime later she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. That's found in Genesis 30:21. Dinah's story is told in Genesis 34, which we are about to read. Her birth is mentioned in Genesis 30, verse 21. She is last mentioned in Genesis 46, verse 15. All right, let's get on to reading chapter 34. Okay. Dinah and the Shechemites. Now, Dinah, the daughter of Leah, had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and he raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. But Hamor said to them, my son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us, and give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am going to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife. Because their sister had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, we can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters as for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. Their proposals seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. These men are friendly towards us, they said. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters, and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised as they are themselves. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us. All the men who went out to the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. But they replied, should we have treated our sister like a prostitute? Chapter 35. Jacob returns to Bethel. Then God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and settle there and build an altar there to God who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all those who were with him, get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves, and change your clothes. And come, let us go to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had, and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was here that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak outside Bethel. So it was named Elon Bakuth. After Jacob returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. So Jacob is now Israel. And God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you. The kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you." Then God went up from him at the place where he talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. And Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. The deaths of Rachel and Isaac. Then they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. I want to read something. Why did the people have these idols, foreign gods? Idols were sometimes seen more as good lucky charms than as gods. Some Israelites, even though they worship God, had idols in their homes, just as some Christians today own good luck trinkets. Jacob believed that idols should have no place in the household. He wanted nothing to divert his family's spiritual focus. Jacob ordered his household to get rid of their gods. Unless we remove idols from our lives, they can ruin our faith. What idols do we have? An idol is anything we put before God. Idols don't have to be physical objects. They can be thoughts or desires. Like Jacob, we should get rid of anything that could stand between us and God. Why did the people give Jacob their earrings? Jewelry in itself was not evil, but in Jacob's day, earrings were often worn as good luck charms to ward off evil. The people in his family had to cleanse themselves of all pagan influences, including reminders of foreign gods. So that's just, stuff down below that I was kind of curious about. All right, so we'll go back to the deaths of Rachel and Isaac. Then they moved on from Bethel, where they were still some distance from Ephrath. Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, "Don't despair, for you have another son." As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben-Oni, but his father named him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah, Reuben the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's servant, Bilhah, were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's servant, Zilpah, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre, near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Esau's descendants. This is account of the family line of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the women of Canaan, Adah, daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Oholibamah, daughter of Anah, and granddaughter of Zibeon and Hivite. Also Basemath, daughter of Ishmael and sister of Nebaioth. Adah bore Eliphaz to Esau. Basemath bore Ruel, and Holibama bore Jush, Jalam, and Korah. These were the sons of Esau who were born to him in Canaan. Esau took his wives and sons and daughters and all the members of his household, as well as his livestock and all his other animals and all the goods he had acquired in Canaan, and moved to a land some distance from his brother Jacob. Their possessions were too great for them to remain together. The land where they were staying could not support them both because of their livestock. So Esau, that is Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. This is the account of the family line of Esau, the father of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife Adah, and Reuel, the son of Esau's wife Basemath. The sons of Eliphaz are Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Esau's sons Eliphaz also had a concubine named Timnah, who bore him Amalek. These were grandsons of Esau's wife Adah. The sons of Reuel, Nahaz, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These were grandsons of Esau's wife Basemath. The sons of Esau's wife Oholibama, daughter of Anah, and granddaughter of Zibeon, whom she bore to Esau, were Jush, Jalam, and Korah. These were the chiefs among Esau's descendants, the sons of Eliphaz, firstborn of Esau. Chiefs Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These were the chiefs descended from Eliphaz and Edom. They were grandsons of Adah. The sons of Esau's son Reuel, chief Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These were the chiefs descended from Reuel in Edom. These were grandsons of Esau's wife Basemath. The sons of Esau's wife Oholibama, chiefs Jush, Jalam, and Korah. These were the chiefs descended from Esau's wife Oholibama, daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and they were their chiefs. These were the sons of Seir, the Horite, who were living in the region: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. The sons of Seir and Edom were Horite chiefs. The sons of Lotan, Hori and Homam, Timnah and Lotan's sister. The sons of Shobal, Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. The sons of Zibeon, Allah and Anah. This is the Anah who discovered the hot springs in the desert while he was grabbing the donkeys from his father Zibeon. The children of Anah, Dishan and Oholibama, daughter of Anah. The sons of Dishan, Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Kiran. The sons of Ezer, Belan, Ban, and Achan. The sons of Dishan, Uz, and Aran. These were the Horite chiefs: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These were the Horite chiefs, according to the divisions in the land of Seir. The rulers of Edom. These were the kings who reigned in Edom before any Israelite king reigned. Bela, son of Beer, became king of Edom. His city was named Dinhabah. When Bela died, Jobab, son of Zerah, from Basra, succeeded him as king. When Jobab died, Husham, from the land of Temanites, succeeded him as king. When Husham died, Hadad of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, succeeded him as king. His city was named Avith. When Hadad died, Samlah from Masrekah succeeded him as king. When Samlah died, Shaul from Rehoboth on the river succeeded him as king. When Shaul died, Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, succeeded him as king. When Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, died, Hadad succeeded him as king. The city was named Pau, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, daughter of Matred and daughter of Mezahab. These were the chiefs descended from Esau by name, according to their clans and regions: Timnah, Halva, Jahath, Aholibama, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Timon, Mibsar, Magdiel, and Iran. These were the chiefs of Edom according to their settlements in the land they occupied. This is a family line of Esau, the father of the Edomites. All right, we're going to go into Joseph. Chapter 37, Joseph is sold into slavery. But first, we're going to read about Joseph. As a youngster, Joseph was overconfident. His natural self-assurance increased by being Jacob's favorite son, and by knowing of God's designs on his life, was unbearable to his 10 older brothers, who eventually conspired against him. But their self-assurance, molded by pain and combined with a personal knowledge of God, allowed him to survive and prosper where most would have failed. He added quiet wisdom to his confidence and won the hearts of everyone he met: Potiphar, the warden, other prisoners, the Pharaoh, and after many years, even those 10 brothers. Perhaps you can identify with one or more of these hardships Joseph experienced. He was betrayed and deserted by his family. He was exposed to sexual temptation and punished for doing the right thing. He endured a long imprisonment and was forgotten by those he helped. As you read his story, note what Joseph did in each case. His positive response transformed each setback into a step forward. He didn't spend much time asking why. His approach was, "What shall I do now?" Those who met Joseph were aware that wherever he went and whatever he did, God was with him. When you're facing a setback, the beginning of a Joseph-like attitude is to acknowledge that God is with you. There is nothing like his presence to shed new light on a dark situation. Joseph's strengths and accomplishments rose in power from slave to ruler of Egypt, was known for his personal integrity, was a man of spiritual sensitivity, prepared a nation to survive a famine. Weaknesses and mistakes: his youthful pride caused friction with his brothers. Lessons from his life: what matters is not so much the events or circumstances of life, but our response to them. With God's help, any situation can be used for good, even when others intended for evil. Vital statistics: where? Canaan, Egypt. Occupation: shepherd, slave, convict, ruler. Relatives: parents are Jacob and Rachel, 11 brothers and 1 sister named in the Bible. Wife: Asenath. Sons: Manasseh and Ephraim. Key verse: so Pharaoh asked him, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" That's in Genesis 41, verse 38. Joseph's story is told in Genesis from 30 to 50. He is also mentioned in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 22. All right, the story of Joseph. Joseph, one of Jacob's 12 sons, was obviously the favorite. Hated by his brothers for this, Joseph was sold to slave traders only to emerge as a ruler of all of Egypt. Through Joseph, we learn from how suffering, no matter how unfair, develops strong character and deep wisdom. Joseph is sold into slavery. Joseph's dreams, chapter 37. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the son of Bilhah, and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." And when he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Joseph sold by his brothers. Now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flock near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "As you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them." "Very well," he replied. So he said to him, "Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me." Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He replied, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?" "They have moved on from here," the man answered. "I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dathan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dathan, but they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of those cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern. The cistern was empty, and there was no water in it. Let's read a little bit about Reuben before we continue. Chapter 37. Parents are actually the best judges of their children's character. Jacob summarized the personality of his son Reuben by comparing him to water, except when frozen, water has no stable shape of its own. It always shapes itself to its container or environment. Reuben usually had good intentions, but he seemed unable to stand against the crowd. His inability made him hard to trust. He had both private and public values, but these contradicted each other. He went along with his brothers in their action against Joseph while hoping to counteract the evil in private. The plan failed. Compromise has a way of destroying convictions. Without convictions, lack of direction will destroy life. Reuben's sleeping with his father's concubine showed how little he had left of the integrity he had displayed earlier in life. How consistent are you in public and private lives? We may want to think they are separate, but we can't deny that they affect each other. What convictions are present in your life at all times? How closely does Jacob's description of his son, turbulent as the waters, describe your life? Reuben's strengths and accomplishments saved Joseph's life by talking the other brothers out of murder, showed intense love for his father by offering his own sons as a guarantee that Benjamin's life would be safe. His weaknesses and mistakes, gave in quickly to group pressure, did not directly protect Joseph from his brothers, although as oldest son he had the authority to do so, and he slept with his father's concubine. Lessons from his life: public and private integrity must be the same, or one will destroy the other. And also punishment for sin may not be immediate, but it is certain. Vital statistics: where? Canaan, Egypt. Occupation: shepherd. Relatives: parents are Jacob and Leah. 11 brothers and 1 sister. Key verses: Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. Turbulent as the waters, you will no longer excel, for you went up onto your father's bed, onto my couch, and defiled it. Genesis 49, verses 3 and 4. Reuben's story is told in Genesis 29 through 50. Okay, let's go back. And as they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, what will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up from the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, the boy isn't there. Where can I turn now? Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, we found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe. He recognized it and said, it is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph was surely been torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. No, he said, I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of the Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. So tearing one's clothes and wearing sackcloth, rough cloth like burlap, were signs of mourning, much like wearing black today. Imagine the culture shock Joseph experienced upon arriving in Egypt. Joseph had lived as a nomad, traveling in the countryside with his family, caring for sheep. Suddenly he was thrust into the world's most advanced civilization, with great pyramids, beautiful homes, sophisticated people, and a new language. While Joseph saw Egypt's skill and intelligence at their best, he also saw Egyptians' spiritual blindness. They worshipped countless gods related to every aspect of life. All right, I'm going to read one more chapter. Chapter 38. I don't have this situated well, but that's okay. All right, chapter 38. Judah and Tamar. At that time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hirah. There Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and made love to her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son who was named She conceived again and gave birth to a son and named him Onan. She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kezib that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, sleep with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to raise up offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. So what he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death also. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up," for he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's household. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up from Timnah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hira the Adullamite went with him. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with? And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I'll send you a young goat for my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her, and she slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adullamite, in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is the shrine prostitute who was beside the road at Enaim?" "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the men who lived there said, there hasn't been any shrine prostitute here." Then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughingstock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. "I am pregnant by the man who owns these," she said, and she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah," and he did not sleep with her again. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand. So the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, "This one came out first." So when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out." And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had a scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was named Zerah. Okay, so that is the end of today's reading. That was chapter 38. And thank you, Lord, for your word. Thank you for your lessons in it. Thank you for talking to us individually through your word. Amen. I hope that you receive something from this, and we will continue to read the Bible. Again, the Bible in a year. So, Genesis, I'm looking quickly how many more chapters there are. And the next book, I think, is Exodus. Oh, wow. Yep. Genesis is coming to an end. Chapter 50. So it ends in chapter 50, and we are in chapter 39. All right, then. Have a blessed day, and I hope you enjoy these readings.